By now, many of you should know what this is just by looking at it. Let it sink in. I'm pretty sure many of y'all know what it is. What this is 175 years. Y'all say, wait a minute, I thought it was, no, slow down. It's 175 years. By official accounts, it was only 3 or 4 days. Even though this was built up a month before, but we'll give them the official accounts. Less than a week wiped 175 years of development from black folks across the globe with these 4 days in 1921. I do this every year, and I put this up just to give you the magnitude, because it's been something, a growing project of over about 17 years that I've compiled this, putting this together, which is one of the main reasons I do what I do. These 4 days set black folks across the globe, and mostly in America, back 175 years. They call it Black Wall Street. And you know that I get very facetious, and and especially when I get on my rants and whatnot. But this is not really a laughing matter when you talk about 175 years it'll take to catch up with the rest of the globe in terms of just catch up to where you could have been. We're not even talking about the rest of the globe. We're talking about where you could have been. In 4 days of what was done in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when they destroyed Black Wall Street on a lie, it literally set black folks back 175 years. We're not talking about the other accounts. If you added those, it would have set you back over a millennium. But we're just talking 4 days alone in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lot of folks, where you get your numbers, this and that, do your own 17 years of research, and I'm sure that you'll probably find the same statistics and the same numbers that it took me. Again, this is something, an ongoing project. You see me post this every year because it's really important to me. We're not just talking about the immediate effects of the families that were hurt, or the businesses, the entire community that was destroyed, businesses and they call it a riot. It wasn't a riot. Riots are temporary, and both parties are involved. This was a massacre. The entire black town was massacred. There was no fighting back except for to save one's life. But the entire black town was massacred, and it wasn't temporary. The effects reverberated over 175 years. Even though it was 1921, in other words, you've just begun to claw back to what those 175 years are. Even if even if progress was just static. As we know, progress is dynamic and it goes exponential. So for every year, in other words, for every step you take, you're 2 steps back. So now, go exponential into logarithmic, and that 175 years starts to look like a millennium. But I'm going to be real with you. We're not just talking the immediate effects of the families that were involved or the businesses that were involved. Businesses just don't stop with, okay, I'm going to set up a lemonade stand and it's just with my friend across the street. Businesses also, they affect education. They affect new technologies, new innovations. They affect also not only the health, physical, but also the psychological health. And what new technologies, new innovations, and new trading, and and I'm not talking just markets, I'm talking trading, even interstate borders. Oklahoma to Nebraska. Next thing you know, you've got Illinois, Iowa, you've got, Wyoming. Next thing you have Colorado, Utah, intrastate trading in terms of innovation, technology, education. See, things, it's like a cold, and even though I don't like to use, terms but in those terms, it spreads. And then it creates more new innovation. Do you not think that's how America or any other country, they did not just keep those within their borders and that's it. Things are spread, and then it creates new commerce. Then it creates new innovations. And it compounds itself over and over till all of a sudden you have a nation state. Black Wall Street had that possibility. And knowing how black folk like to play basketball, golf, or even music, and knowing the innovation and the fact that we take things to the limit, and then some, beyond the limits, that innovation just exponentially, even if we used it on a linear scale or even static, that innovation would most likely not only be 175 years lost, it could go into unlimited. I mean, I'm just trying to tell you the magnitude of just what a few days have done. I put this up every year because I don't think folks know the magnitude of what was lost and how long it's going to take to catch up. This is not something of just a very limited temporary situation. This thing reverberated across the globe. Folks say, how does it reverberate across the globe? Again, do you not get your food or products from whether it's Taiwan, China, or even some of those things you see in your supermarket from Mexico? The products, goods, and services that were developed here had international implications. International trade was cut off of black folk. So now you're taking that 175 years from an exponential to a logarithmic scale that's unparalleled of what you lost with 4 days. This is just 4 days. And like I said, it took years of compiling this. And I'm looking at 175 as the minimum of what was lost in 4 days of a massacre. They call it a riot, but it was no riot. It was a massacre. We're not talking about something that some folks will say, well, let's look at this limited version. And no, we're talking about setting back an entire people. And it only took 4 days to set you back 175 years. And that's if we're not looking at the logarithmic aspect of it. If we're not looking at the exponential aspect of it. These are 4 days that started today officially, May 31st, 1921, by their accounts. Although it was built up before, because it takes a lot of boiling water to create a steam to make that whistle in the teapot. It just doesn't start at once. This was something that built up and said, we need to destroy this black community. But they didn't just destroy it on one day. That didn't just destroy 1 day worth of development. It destroyed decades, which reverberated into over a century. And if we look at logarithmically, it's probably unlimited. This is no joke. This is reality. This was Black Wall Street. 175 years gone, at the minimum.